What is going on, everybody? I am back today to talk about a new series that released on HBO Max that finally just wrapped up that I've been very excited to watch because if you saw my review, I'm a huge fan of Tim Robinson. He's like one of my favorite comedians working right now. And Friendship is one of my favorite movies that I've seen in a while. I think that movie is genuinely hilarious. I love the offbeat comedy of Tim Robinson. I feel like what I like so much about Tim is that his comedy is really overblown and absurd, but it also is like layered with societal commentary and the way people interact on a daily basis when it comes to friendship or workplace environment or being a parent. Like it's all incredibly poignant while being really hilarious. And Friendship was a perfect example of that absurdism to the like 100th degree. And so as soon as I saw that this was created by Tim and also the guy who directed Friendship, that made me very, very excited to watch it. And also the fact that all of this takes place in Ohio, near like places that I've lived in my life, was very wild to me. Like I was not expecting that whatsoever. And I'm really excited to tell you about the Chair Company today. At the beginning of the Chair Company, we are introduced to Ron, played by Tim Robinson, who lives in Ohio. I think he lives in like the Canton, Ohio area. He's traveling all throughout the state. And he lives at home with his wife, Barb, played by Lake Bell, and they have two children. They have a son, Seth, who I think is on the verge of graduating high school and about to be in college, and Natalie, played by Sophia Lillis, who is currently, I don't know if she's in college or working, but she's engaged to her partner. And so she's living away from home. And he is working for this very large company that is building a mall in the Canton, Ohio area. And he is the project manager of that. He's the one who's making sure that everything is going according to plan. And we get introduced to all the various people that work in the office building with him, including his boss, Jeff, played by Lou Diamond Phillips. And at the very first episode of the show, Ron is supposed to give a presentation essentially talking about the creation of the mall and what it's going to do for the community. And he's very nervous about it. You know, he's trying to build himself up, but he gets there and he does the conference and he speaks and he does a really great job. Everybody gives him a really great round of applause. His boss looks at him and was like, "You killed it." And he goes back to sit on his rolling computer chair that is on the stage. And he sits in the chair and it collapses. And everybody kind of looks at him. He gets up and he kind of makes like a snarky, funny remark, and everybody kind of just plays it off, and the conference continues. And once that moment happens, he goes back to his office and he is completely consumed by it. He cannot believe that that happened to him, which causes him to begin to investigate the company that manufactured the chair because he believes that the company set that up against him and essentially caused his chair to malfunction just for him. And so the entirety of the 8 episodes of the season is him going on this crazy adventure trying to decide, did this company set this up against me, or is there something more going on with this company that manufactures these chairs? This is easily my favorite piece of television that I've watched this year. This is one of the most ridiculous things that I have seen on screen in a long time. It's very much like adjacent to the other Tim Robinson material, but I would argue that this is much more surreal and abstract. There are moments in it that kind of remind me of like David Lynch commentary when you're looking at like quiet, peaceful suburbia and like the evil that exists within it and like the corrupt, strange things that happen, but done in a much more overblown comedic way. There's definitely serious moments in the show, which I think is really impressive, like especially a lot of the commentary surrounding like parenthood and being in a marriage. Like it's like Tim Robinson does a brilliant job knowing how to utilize the comedy in the moments it needs to be there, but also be meditative on a lot of these concepts that people are very familiar with. And there are so many reasons why this show works. The main reason is the cast is incredible. Tim Robinson is obviously going to be himself. He is overblown. He's ridiculous. He delivers, these angry, harsh bits of dialogue that are hilarious to watch him navigate through, which is one of the reasons why I love him so much, is because, he does it in a way that you probably think he's just playing around and having a good time, but you can tell he takes it very seriously. And that's what I respect so much about him as a comedian. He just nails the comedic beats in a way that like really resonates with you as you're watching the episode. And all those people that I mentioned top to bottom just really incredible, give fantastic performances through the entire season that I think add and contribute a lot to the show. But one of my favorite characters in the entire show is Mike, who is played by Joseph Tedesco, who is one of the funniest characters that I've seen brought on screen. I don't want to give too much away to who his character is or how he's introduced, but my God, by like the sixth or seventh episode, everything this guy is doing on screen is comedic gold. His delivery, the way that he interacts with the people around him, just truly a special comedic talent. And he is fantastic in this. Whenever him and Tim Robinson are on screen together, it is just a complete and total riot. I actually really like the way this thing is shot as well. There's a lot of very creative editing decisions and transitions in the show because it is a mystery. It's silly and it's over the top, but it's also like mysterious and suspenseful. And there's always like a real threat that's looming and existing. And they do that early on in the show when it comes to violence. They showcase violence in a very real world way. And I think when you're doing something like this, like I talk about it all the time, but a lot of my favorite directors right now, if they're regardless of whether they're talking about real world material, there's like absurdism there. Like I love Yorgos Lanthimos. I just put my Begonia review out recently. I love the way that he kind of looks at absurdism in society and is able to strike a dramatic tone while also being comedic. Another director who does a brilliant job with that is Robert Eggers, who most of his films come across as straightforward dramas. But like if you watch something like The Lighthouse, there's a lot of comedic undertone in that. Ari Aster is another perfect example, able to, put this real life drama in your face, but also knows when to add comedy. Jordan Peele does a phenomenal job of that as well. And I think Tim Robinson and the creators of the show, by establishing these real world things, you're able to create a sense of danger and like this looming threat that feels palpable while also being able to be silly with it, but it causes it to be grounded enough that you're always invested. If it's overblown and ridiculous all the time and there's no real sense of reality in any moment, it's hard for you to stay completely and totally invested without it just being like, oh, it's going to be goofy. There's no real stakes or anything in any of the episodes. And I think like Tim Robinson's character and his relationship to his job, I feel like there's a lot of things that come up that most people can relate to, which is another reason why I think the show is so effective, is because you're taking these real world scenarios and kind of making them ridiculous. And obviously Tim Robinson's appeal is that he does all these things that people would not do in real social situations. He has no gauge of how to act socially. And that's one of the things that works so well in each and every episode, is kind of like these harsh, very intense reactions that he has, and just his brilliant comedic delivery. He's one of the best comedians, in my opinion, working right now because of how he is able to elicit such a guttural reaction. And like some people just think he's doing a lot of yelling. And to me, there's so much more to it. And I've always really loved absurdism and kind of offbeat, brash comedy. Tim and Eric's awesome show, great job. And Tim Heidecker and Eric Wareheim were two of my, comedic heroes when I was growing up. I love them. Obviously, I've talked about it before. I'm a huge fan of Edgar Wright. I really like offbeat comedy that's absurdist, and that's exactly what The Chair Company is. But like I said, it has this surrealist edge to it, and it can be very thought provoking and interesting. And like I said, a lot of the conversations, especially surrounding parenthood and marriage in the show, he just does a really great job approaching it in a way that I think is very relatable. But there's also moments where it seems like there's one moment in, I think it's the seventh or eighth episode, they approach an issue with Mike, and it seems like it's going to be very serious, and it ends up coming across as really brash and absurd. And I like that too, where it can kind of turn it on its head and you think it's going to approach something serious and it becomes comedic, and that leaves you guessing. And I think the greatest art is that conflicts the viewer and makes you feel a multitude of emotions. Some of my favorite experiences watching a movie are ones that are essentially like a roller coaster, that the entire time you're watching, you never know what to expect. And that is the perfect description of this show. You have no idea what to expect episode by episode. I'm so glad that this got greenlit for a second season, because it is like the most entertained I've been by a television show in quite some time. If you get an opportunity, HBO Max, 8 episodes, watch this. It is incredible. So have you seen The Chair Company? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Leave me a comment down below and let me know what you thought. I thought this thing was incredible. I laughed so hard. I think it's really great. And I hope Tim Robinson gets to do this for a while, because it's just phenomenal. As always, if you can like the video and subscribe to the channel, helps me out a lot and lets me know the type of content you're looking for. I'm always putting out new material and look forward to getting more out for you in the near future. And as always, everyone, thank you so much for watching, and have a great rest of your day.